Good afternoon now. I'm Puneet Mesa, Assistant Professor at University School of Law at Raja Bahara University. Extend a very warm welcome to respected Chancellor Sir, Vice Chancellor Sir, Registrar Sir, HT Ma'am of the department, and all the new entrants. The present webinar is on role of legal education in India. In contemporary times, legal education is of utmost importance. Legal education is inevitable for those associated with the field of law as well as for the common man. Now, I would like to hand over the charge to our resource person, Ms. Aishwarya Bagga, Assistant Professor in Law at University School of Law, Raj Bahara University. She has done her Bachelor in Laws and Masters in Law from Army Institute of Law, Mohali. She is UGC NET qualified. She has authored various research papers and also co-authored a book on consumer protection. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, Puneet ma'am, for a wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'll be covering the topic of role of legal education in India. Mahatma Gandhi has rightly said that live as if you were to die today, but learn as if you were to live forever. This basically implies that if you're living, you live today at the fullest, enjoy your day. But as far as your education or your training of the mind is concerned, please be very careful because you're going to live forever. And knowledge is the powerful source that you can change your life with. Now, as far as legal education is concerned in India or all over the world, legal education refers to the learning by the legal professionals, which constitutes your students, the legal practitioners, or even the judicial members. Legal education is something which continues from ages and will still continue as long as the human species is surviving on this planet. Legal education does not only mean legal education of the students or of the judiciary members or the practicing professionals to do their education. It means education for one and all, because as far as law is concerned, ignorance of law is no excuse. Education, or as far as legal education is concerned, concerns each and every individual. As far as we are concerned, it concerns every aam aadmi who has to seek his right, his duty, or even perform his day-to-day activities. As far as legal education in India is concerned, it can be clearly divided into four parts. Firstly, the education that was there at the time when we had the epics and the Purans, which basically concerned with your dharma or your karam. Karam hi dharma or dharam hi karma. Rightly, this has been said, which has been further substantiated by the point of nyaya, justice. These have been things which have been constituted since forever and has been considered as a part of our justice system. Continuing from the era of the epics and the Purans came in the Mughal emperors, Babur, Humayun, Akbar, who laid a lot of emphasis on the difference between your criminal codes as well as your civil codes. Your civil codes, which will deal with your rights from man to man, but your criminal matters will deal with those rights which constitute the entire world, known as your right in rem. The Mughals made a lot of emphasis on the Quran, which is still considered as a source of law, which has been taken in all the personal laws as far as Muslims are concerned. Furthermore, after the Mughals came the era of the British. The British came into India and made a very organized and a formalized system of as far as law practitioners were concerned. It was only by the Britishers that the College of Elphinstone was established, which provided legal education, as was considered as one of the main prime sources to ensure that each and every person gets their due right. And this can only be done when there were legal professionals who were actually aware of what the law was and how the law had to be actually stated when there had to be justice given. Furthermore, moving on to the independent India. The independent India had enacted the Advocates Act of 1961, which concerns all the practicing advocates as of now in our country, pan India, and as well as it takes into consideration as to the level of education provided in the legal profession, be it in the colleges or at the university level or the various schools of law. At the beginning, the law colleges were only giving a course which was a 3-year course, which could be taken up only after your undergraduate course, be it BSc or your other BCom courses. But now, following the National Law University, that is your NLUs, it has been considered that a 5-year course has been introduced, which can be taken up by the students after 10 plus 2 and can be ensured that every child who has done +2, and that will be an integrated course, that is you will get 2 degrees, one at the completion of your 3rd year, which can be either BA or BCom. Furthermore, then you shall be given your LLB, that is your BA LLB or the BCom LLB 5 years integrated course. The same can also be an honors degree. The Bar Council of India or the Advocates Act provide as to how the level of education will be, so that all the students or all the legal professionals know as to where they owe their allegiance and how they can ensure themselves to be good lawyers and good practitioners. As far as legal education in India is concerned, today, the aims of the legal education are firstly training the minds of the students who are going to be associated with law. It is very, very important in this age and stage that we ensure that every child or every student who is taking into the law courses, they are given a good amount of education, because unless and until these budding lawyers are not given the requisite amount of knowledge of the law or the legal rules or the laws and the enactments, they cannot function well as far as the courts are concerned. Secondly, it is very, very important to tell the students about how educating about legal problems can help them in their lives or the people who are surrounded by them. That is the pro bono work. It is very important. Every man today, whether he's below the poverty line or he's Ambani, he needs a legal assistance. There can be no man in this world who will not need legal assistance, be it for a small right as far as giving you shelter is concerned, or as far as your right to sleep is concerned. The legal education that is provided will ensure that every man is given equality and every man is brought at par in the society, so that the difference between the haves and the have-nots can be reduced and we can have a more social welfare country. The next aim of the legal education is that all the students should know how to deal with every man who comes at their door seeking client help or seeking information as to law is concerned. As small as an information like the crossing of a red line or you crossing the zebra, you need to know everything, because simply in India or in any country, ignorance of law is no excuse. You cannot go to the court and say that you were not aware. If you're living in a particular state, you ought to know the law of that nation. Now, the role of legal education is not narrowed. It cannot be only constituted into an infrastructure where only students are studying. It is something which has to be concerned with as far as your people in their daily lives are concerned. First and the foremost role of legal education in India is creating lawyers who can ensure that there is proper education, so that tomorrow, if they have to do legal representation of any person, be him a good man, a bad man, a criminal, a person who is innocent, they should know all the laws that have been stated by our Indian Parliament. Secondly, it is very important to train the mind of the students as to how they will pursue a particular law and how law is balanced for both the convicted as well as the accused and the innocent party. And furthermore, Today, we have also laid a lot of emphasis on as far as the victims are concerned. The Indian Parliament was very innocent while it concerned with its victims and the witness protection programs. If today you're a witness, you shall be given the requisite protection. But how do we know this? We know this because we have the requisite legal knowledge which is required. Thirdly, the role of legal education in India is that you will be able to change the entire society, because a normal man does not have knowledge of each and every law that he is so concerned with. So we need such people and members in the society who can ensure that there is law, who will ensure that even a man who is not aware of his rights gets his right. A lot of people are not aware of their basic rights. Roti, kapda, makan, your food, water, shelter is the basic thing that you require, which today the Supreme Court has given you as a fundamental right. But how do we know this? Is because there is legal education. People are concerned with what is happening in the countries, and we can ensure that each and every person who has this knowledge is doing it with a perfect brain and they know of the law. Unless and until you're not aware of something, you cannot go to the court of law and say anything. Next, you need that basic legal education so that you have an aspect of what the law deals with. Today, there are various provisions in the law, there are various legislations which concern with as to what law is. There was a time when the people used to know of only one law as far as criminal law is concerned, that was your Indian Penal Code. But today, if a woman has been treated with a bad respect at her home, whereas she lives, or domestically she is not treated well, there is a special act for that, the Domestic Violence Act, and she can go to the court as far as to the level that there can be protection orders for her, and she can be stay in that same house where she has been subject to violence, but with a professional or a police officer to ensure that there is no violation of her right, because home is somebody's safe place, and if a woman is subjected to any violence at her home, it shall be considered very tough for that lady to step out in the society. So the law into seeking into this has made proper provisions that a woman, if she is subjected to any violence at her domestic place by either her husband or in-laws, is given the requisite protection as well as the housing facilities which women were not given 2 decades back. But how do we know this? It's because of legal education. Unless and until you are not aware of what your rights are, or what legally is happening in the country, or what the courts at the topmost level are saying, you cannot function well in a society. Now, lastly, I would like to say that as far as role of legal education in our country is concerned, it is each one of us, because everybody's duty is nobody's duty. Unless and until we do not become aware of our rights, nobody can make us aware of our rights. Unless and until you're not aware of your right, you cannot even seek legal help, because you're not aware that your right has been violated. So, absolutely, it is very, very important that education, as far as legal is concerned, is important for people who are so associated with the legal profession. But it is very important for any general man also, the common man, the aam aadmi, who needs to be aware of his rights. As small as an example, an advertisement which the Indian government runs is of the Jago Grahak Jago. What is that? Consumer be aware. Unless and until you as a consumer is not aware that if your product is not of the quality promised to you, you cannot even go and exchange that product. How will you know it? You will know it because of legal education. So no matter what, the role of education is, legal education is inevitable in our society, be it India or elsewhere. You need to have the basic education. Secondly, the role of legal education cannot exist without education, because law without education is nothing but a dead letter. If a law is redundant, it is not functioning, you cannot consider it to be functioning, and people will not know of as to what is happening. Finally, I would like to conclude this by saying that legal education can only exist if there is proper education provided at all the universities, schools, and there are proper organizations who are running as to what has to be done and as to how the level of education is improved. And it is us only who will eventually do it, because there is no other person who will do it. Unless and until you do not get into the pond, you cannot clean the pond. So it is very important that legal education is given to everybody and they are given their basic rights. Now I would like Ms. Pandit ma'am to please give a vote of thanks.
On behalf of University School of Law, Raj Bahara University, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar organized by the University School of Law. I also extend the vote of thanks to Vice Chancellor Sir for giving us the opportunity to organize this webinar. I would also like to express my gratitude to our HOD of the department for always providing with the encouragement and support. I would like to thank our speaker, Ms. Aishwarya Jirka, Assistant Professor in University School of Law, Raj Bahara University, for giving us an overview of the role of legal education in India. She has very well emphasized the role of legal education in the lives of upcoming law students, that is you all. I would also like to acknowledge and express our sincere thanks to Mr. C.D. Sharma sir for providing all the technical arrangements for organizing this program. Last but not the least, a heartfelt thanks to all the participants who have joined us today in this webinar through the Zoom and YouTube links. It is aptly said, with these warm words, we move to the end of today's webinar. It is aptly said by Ralph Waldo Emerson, there is no better way to exercise the imagination than the study of the law. Thank you all.